Party Chairman and Secretary General, comrades and friends, brothers and sisters of the NTUC, good morning. I'm very happy to join all of you today for this year's party convention. I want to acknowledge all three comrades who spoke just now for their excellent speeches. Let's give them another big round of applause. As we reach the close of the year, it's also time to reflect and take stock of the events that have taken place. For me personally, everything has changed. In my 25 years of public service, I've had the chance to work in many different ministries and agencies. Each posting has been meaningful and fulfilling. Each posting has also been more challenging than the previous one. And now the biggest responsibility of all lies before me. You know what I'm talking about. I've always known the weight of this duty and the demands of the job. But you have my promise that I am all in, heart and soul, to give nothing but my very best. And that's why I have been extra busy this year, helping Singaporeans cope with the rising cost of living, picking up new areas of work, for example, in foreign policy, defense, and security matters, and doing more on the party side, engaging all our activists across different branches, meeting with potential candidates so that we can field a strong team for the next general election. Many ask me, when will the leadership transition happen? I tell them, akan datang. It's a matter of time. In fact, as Secretary General repeatedly reminds me, the runway is short and it's getting shorter with each passing day. And so I've been working hard to get ready to receive the baton from him. And this morning, let me share with you my thoughts on the key challenges confronting us and what Singapore and the PAP must do in our next phase. Comrades, Singapore is at an inflection point. We are in a different and unfortunately also a more dangerous world. We can see dark shadows all around us. In Europe, there's a war ongoing in Ukraine. In the Middle East, there's conflict between Israel and Hamas and brewing tensions across the region. In Asia, there's competition between the US and China with potential flashpoints in Taiwan and the South China Sea. The major countries are all caught up with geopolitics and national security. Free trade has taken a back seat. Protectionism is rising, and global supply chains are being redefined. So the challenges ahead are immense. What worries me most is the impact of these challenges on our social cohesion and solidarity. Because global economic changes can impact our jobs and livelihoods. And tensions elsewhere, we say this is happening in a faraway part of the world, but tensions elsewhere can spill over and have impact on our social fabric if we are not careful. And all of these forces, very powerful forces, can pull our people apart. They can sharpen differences across our diverse communities. They can turn our differences into intractable fissures. And we see this happening in countries around the world. Deep societal divisions have arisen. They are made worse by populist politicians preying on people's insecurities and fears. And we are not immune to such divisive forces in Singapore. If we become divided, if our society fractures, we are finished. Our tiny island will fall by the wayside. No one will care. No one will come to our rescue. And that's why one of my first priorities was the Forward Singapore exercise. Because I firmly believe that for Singapore to weather the challenges ahead, we must hold fast to a common set of values and a common mission. And I was very heartened by the enthusiastic response from the many Singaporeans we engaged over the past 16 months. The Forward Singapore report, which we have put out, is more than just a policy document. It is a roadmap for our future. It is our shared vision for Singapore. And it's a pledge of what we will do for one another and for future generations. This consensus that we have forged through the Forward Singapore exercise is precious and it is assuring, because it's a signal that regardless of our differences, we share a common bond in Singapore, that come what may, we will hold together as one people, one nation. It's also an affirmation that Singaporeans continue to trust the PAP and the PAP government to build a better and brighter future, and that they too are ready and willing to do their part to contribute to the next chapter of our Singapore story. So, comrades, it's up to us now, as the government of the day, to act on this vision, develop our policies, and turn our shared aspirations into reality. Policies do not happen in a vacuum. They do not just appear by magic. They are driven by politics. Adopting difficult policies, doing big things in Singapore, they require not only political gumption on our part, but also political support from Singaporeans. Long-term policies only bear fruit, say, a decade from now, or even a half-century or a century later, as in the case of climate change policies. So they require political durability and consistency to follow through. Imagine if a political party is hanging on to office by its fingernails. Do you think its leaders will be thinking and planning long-term? I certainly do not think so, because all they can think about is survival. And that's what we are seeing now across the great democracies of the world. Fortunately, we have avoided such a fate in Singapore. We have been able to do big things, decade after decade, because we have strong government in Singapore, a strong PAP government. And look at what we have achieved together: our water story, our public housing program, our city in nature, our jewel in the east, our Tuas port in the west. Every drop of water we caught, every brick we laid, every tree we planted, all these didn't happen by chance. They were the result of multi-year efforts, and they were the result of consistent implementation over many terms of government by the PAP government. So to fully realize our shared vision, we will need the people's continued mandate over more than one term. And that depends on whether the PAP can continue to win the support of Singaporeans and be elected as government. Comrades, the people's support is not a given. The PAP may have won every election since 1959, but we can easily lose the next one. I've said this before and I will say it again. I do not assume that the PAP will win the next GE convincingly or even win it outright. I do not make that assumption. None of us should. We know that many Singaporeans may want the PAP to form the government, and they say so. But growing numbers of them also want more opposition and more checks and balances. We must recognize and respect this. And it means that every election from now on will not be about how many seats the opposition gains, but whether the PAP can form the government and whether it will be a strong government. Every seat and every vote counts. So, comrades, how should we respond to these new trends and realities? We will need to redouble our efforts to build stronger connections with Singaporeans, retain their confidence and trust. We must understand the desire for more opposition is at its heart a desire for those with different perspectives to be heard, a desire for those who may have felt excluded to be seen, to have their lived experiences validated. They too are Singaporeans like you and me. They too deserve to have their stories recognized, accepted, respected. If we want to win their trust, they must be engaged. If we want to win their confidence, they must feel included. The PAP must be a party not just for our supporters, but for all Singaporeans. I know that our MPs, our branch heads, our party activists, all of you work hard to achieve this. At every branch, you are doing your best on the ground. Across our functional groups, Young PAP, Women's Wing, Policy Forum, Seniors Group, Malay Affairs Bureau, all of you are stepping up your engagements with your respective constituencies. So I thank you all for your many efforts and contributions. Thank you very much. All of you have been working hard. We have been doing a lot. But comrades, I believe we can and we must do even more to be a party for all Singaporeans. So over the coming months, I and my 4G team will engage all of you, our activists. Collectively, we must renew, refresh, and strengthen our party. And there are three broad areas to consider and focus on. First, we must broaden our outreach. We need to go beyond engaging residents through our respective branches and beyond reaching specific segments through our functional groups. We must engage a wider range of groups and grow the diversity of people we bring into our PAP fold. Not everyone we reach out to will agree with us, let alone join us as party members. But as long as they are open to making common cause with us, we welcome them as our friends. And that's how we expand our network and grow the friends of the PAP. Second, we must sharpen our messages. As a party, we've always been practical and action-oriented. That's a good thing. We believe actions speak louder than words, and that's why we are the People's Action Party. But if we only focus on actions and we fail to get our messages across effectively, I think we will have a big problem. So we must improve how the party communicates. We cannot just rely on government communications. The party machinery must be able to communicate well. We must make clear what our party stands for, what are its long-term plans, what it is doing across the board. We need to highlight the differences between the policies of the PAP and the policies of the opposition. In most areas, the opposition's proposed policies are shades of the PAP's policies. Whatever we do, they vary it by a little bit. But in some areas, the positions are fundamentally different. And we must explain why our approach is better for Singapore and Singaporeans. This means strengthening our capabilities to engage Singaporeans on different platforms, including through social media, so we can get our messages across to the right audiences. Third, we need to review and strengthen our party organization. And this is perhaps the most critical step if we are able to do all that I have just described. The party's organizational structure has deep roots in our history. We started with a single branch office in Tanjong Pagar in 1955, and today we have tremendous strength in our party branches, each doing significant work serving residents in every constituency. Our activists, all of you across the branches, are passionate about many causes, and we have many younger members brimming with new ideas, eager to step up. All of you represent our greatest strength. You are the key to building a stronger relationship of trust with our people. So I want to empower all of you, our activists, to do more. I want to provide you with more resources to drive causes that you believe in and turn ideas into action. I will support you to venture further to engage Singaporeans widely and mobilize them to our cause. And I will equip you to be leaders in your own community, to draw in new members and volunteers regardless of their background. Together, we will demonstrate our resolve and dedication as a party, fully committed to the mission of uniting Singaporeans and building our shared future together. So, comrades, there is a lot of work ahead of us. We have done much, but there is still much more to do, and to do urgently, for there is also much at risk. Investors are watching us. When EDB makes a pitch to new investors, they want to know, will they be still dealing with the same government in the years to come? Can they take our words seriously? Other countries will be watching too. They would want to know, does the next Prime Minister and his government have the support of the people? Does Singapore still have a strong government, able to do big things? So the stakes at the next general election are high. Just recall what happened in July 1965. July 1965. There was a by-election in Hong Lim. The incumbent was an opposition member of the legislature and had suddenly resigned. Very likely asked to resign by the powers that be that were in KL at that time. The PAP had lost twice in Hong Lim in a row. Once in the 1961 by-election and then again in the 1963 general election. What would have happened if we had lost again in July 1965? I think history could have unfolded very differently. The federal government then would have concluded Mr. Lee Kuan Yew lacked the support of Singaporeans. They could have arrested and thrown him into jail and imposed direct rule over our tiny island. Fortunately, the PAP won in 1965, in July 1965, and won convincingly. So the signal to everyone was very clear, and on 9th August, we became independent. So, comrades, the lesson is clear. We have been tested before, and we will be tested again. There is much at risk, and that is why the PAP must be renewed and refreshed. Work has already started, and we will step up our engagements with all of you over the coming months. We aim to be ready by the PAP's 70th anniversary next year. So at that time, when we mark this happy occasion, we can look forward to a stronger PAP, unshakable in its commitment to Singapore and Singaporeans. We can look forward to a refreshed PAP, ready to fight the next election and to win the confidence and trust of all Singaporeans. Comrades and friends, I have shared some of my thoughts and plans for the future for Singapore and for the PAP. I may be the incoming leader, but this is not about me. It's not just my aspiration, but our aspirations. It's not just my perspective, but our perspectives. This is about us, our country, our family, our future. throughout my life, I have benefited from learning from those around me, from interacting with others with vastly different life experiences and views of the world. I don't start with the assumption that I know everything or have the answers to all problems, because I certainly don't. Instead, I prefer to start by listening, hearing a diverse range of perspectives and views, and staying open to different ideas. In the end, I will have to decide. As leader, I will have to judge the balance and do what I assess to be in the best interest of all Singaporeans. Whichever way I decide, there will always be some who disagree with me or who will not be satisfied. And I know I will also have to make tough but necessary decisions from time to time. I've been in government long enough to know that I cannot please everyone. But I will do my best to explain my decision, to be upfront about the problems and trade-offs, and win the support of the broad majority of Singaporeans. So that will be my approach to leadership. Not accentuating differences, but finding common ground and the things that bind us all as Singaporeans. Not separating and dividing, but keeping us together as one united people. For in a society as diverse as Singapore, we must always find ways to forge consensus. If our instinct is to disconnect from and dismiss those who disagree with us or are different from us, we all stand to lose. We must resist the urge to draw lines and instead focus on our commonalities and find ways to make space for one another, to strengthen this common ground that we all share together. This is how the government has dealt with sensitive issues like allowing nurses to wear the tudung and repealing Section 377A. And this is how we are now dealing with the implications of the Israel-Hamas conflict on our society. And that is how I intend to take Singapore forward. It means ensuring the benefits of progress are shared by all, not some. It means uplifting all Singaporeans, not just a few. Above all, it means enlarging and deepening the common space so as to keep us together, so that every Singaporean will always be respected and valued and will always have a place on this little red dot. Comrades, like all of you, I wear our party whites with pride because I believe in Singapore. I believe in our people. I believe in making our actions count. I believe in keeping our politics clean, honest, and right. We have many things going for us in Singapore. We have a determined and resourceful people. We have a strong PAP team in place, backed by all of you, our party activists, working hand in hand with our brothers and sisters in the NTUC. And with Forward Singapore, we have a clear roadmap for what we need to do and how the PAP government can work with our people to help Singapore succeed in our next bound. So, comrades, standing before all of you in this convention, today I say, I am ready for my next assignment. I will not be in this alone. I will have a team of 4G leaders whom I have worked closely with over the years. We are ready to lead. And I will have the advice of Secretary General, SMTO, and other 3G ministers who will continue to serve. They have been excellent mentors and role models, and I value greatly their advice and inputs. Importantly, I know I will have the support of each and every one of you, your ideas, your passion, and your hard work on the ground as we walk this journey together. So, comrades, let us refresh the PAP as a national movement dedicated to all. Let's keep our people together, strong and united. Let's all strive for a fairer, more equal, more just society, a better Singapore, and a better life for all Singaporeans. Majulah NTUC, Majulah PAP, Majulah Singapura. Thank you very much.